What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today we got something a little different, BRP product, but we just picked up this baby. Let's see what we got. So guys, I picked up this 2015 Canam Maverick 1000 and it is disgusting. Previous owner just kind of hacked it. I mean, the wiring is a disaster. I mean, don't know what this is. Missing panels, more wiring, junk. But I mean, honestly, overall, it's a diamond in the rough. Like, why? You know, but overall, not terrible. Clean it up. But yeah, this is what I'm gonna deal with for this project. So, long story short, I did get it running on site. I threw a new battery in it. It did hesitate. I pulled the spark plugs, cleaned them up. It did wind up starting. It did start smoking and throwing a low oil pressure. So gonna look into that. Now, it's been sitting for apparently 2 years. It has about, I think, 300 hours and 3,000 miles. So let's see how we get this thing running. First and foremost, I gotta cut all of this stuff out. I mean, it is a complete nightmare. Once we get this all cut out, gonna start cleaning all this stuff up, but gotta first start with getting all these panels off, checking the motor, seeing what the smoke issue is. It looked like it was coming from the back of the valve cover. I don't think an oil change has been done on this at all yet. So let's see how it goes. All right, so now that everything's pretty much ripped out, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Not pretty. This is probably the best wiring in this whole Maverick right there. So, first things first, key on, fuel pump starts. We have the gauge. It might say desk post not recognized. Okay. So, here's what I noticed when I first started it. If you look right here, so, since this thing's been sitting, first thing I'm going to do is change the oil, change the filter, check for, I'm going to do a leak down test on each cylinder, change the spark plugs, see if that helps this at all. I did notice one thing, and that is where this was leaking when it warms up, right in the valve cover. You see that warpage right there? So it's actually leaking right onto the exhaust manifold. So I think that's where my leak is coming from. And it's kind of leaking all the way down. So I'm going to say that that valve cover definitely needs to be retorqued and regasketed. But that, I think, looked like the only leak. So going to take a look at that. Still going to do the oil change. So let's do it. All right, guys, so performing the oil change, I mean, yeah, you see that. That looks awesome. But the real fun part, and the really most disturbing, is this. I have never seen something like that. No metal, but that filter is literally disintegrating in my hand, as you can see. So, with that being said, let's change this oil probably like 10 times and see if we can get rid of that low oil pressure code. All right, so oil's changed. I did actually have a spare oil pressure sensor from all my Sea-Doo projects, so I did pop that in, and honestly guys, we're looking good. So now we don't have a low oil pressure code. I do have 2 warped valve covers. I did order the cast iron ones. Now just gonna change the spark plugs, give this thing another run, see how well it runs, and see how it goes. All right guys, so oil change is done, oil filter's done, spark plugs are done. The only thing I'm waiting on are the 2 cast iron valve covers, along with going to be replacing the plastic coolant hose, blanking out on what that's called, but that's going to be cast iron as well, because the other side's leaking, so just would rather just do cast iron for everything. But on another note, I did hook this up to buds. I did program and update the cluster along with the ECM as well. So let's see how it starts. All right, so the popping, I'm assuming, is water in the fuel. So gonna be draining out the fuel, putting in fresh 93. Now, next thing I noticed is coolant is straight water. So going to have to drain the cooling system. That's another reason why I wanted to get those cast iron hose adapter things, whatever you want to call them. I keep blanking out on the name of them, but let's do it. All right, so fuel drained, fuel primed. Really, once again, the only thing I'm missing in the valve covers, but should be able to get a good start on this. Let's see how it goes. Not bad. Well, it runs. So, waiting on these valve covers. I'll be right back. All right, so got a little carried away. Stripped a little bit more of it, you know, just to, these panels were kind of destroyed. I already ordered 2 new panels. Going to see what I can do about the hood and also this back panel here. But dirty. So going through this a little bit more, I did find out that the map sensor was covered in oil. So I did order a new map sensor that is right there. So once we replace that, that should correct our cold idle issue. But in the meantime, I did get the 2 new valve covers. So going to show you this front one, and then we'll jump into going into that one. Well, let's do it. All right, so first things first, I'm gonna just undo that is warped. Damn. Look at that melt. Yep, that would explain the leak. Okay, so we have our new valve cover cast iron ready to get dropped. So, high side, gear side. And get this in, just like that. New bolts. And now I'm gonna just continue these 4, and then we'll jump to the front. All right, so valve covers are on. The only thing I'm missing are the water jackets, which should be coming in any day now. But before that comes in, I definitely want to give this thing a wash. It is a complete disaster, and it definitely deserves a much needed wash. By the way, those are the valve covers, completely melted and this trashed. So gonna give this the wash, and let's see how it turns out. All right, so after a much needed clean, believe it or not, I mean, it started to peel off. So I'm wondering if that paint stripper will kind of pull this off. Especially here too. The plastic is actually shiny and not scratched. So if I can get this off, I'll definitely be happy. So going to continue to work on this, but it is definitely looking a lot better. You know, spent a lot of time trying to clean the shocks, so getting rid of all that overspray from whatever that was. Once again, that was just a quick wash. Definitely going to be re-washing this. I really didn't spend too much time on this side in regards to the plastics, but it definitely made a difference, minus the whole mess. So next thing, we're going to do the thermostat water jackets, or I'm sorry, going to do the water jackets, going to add cooling to the system. I'll show you guys that process in regards to bleeding the cooling system, and then we got to jump into this electrical nightmare. So stay tuned. Alright guys, so next thing we're going to do is I just want to inspect the drive belt, the clutch, see how dirty it is. So we're going to take this cover off. We're going to remove all of the top bolts and the, I believe, 4 on the bottom, along with the breather tubes. So I'm gonna pop this off and we'll be right back. All right guys, so another problem. Most of these nuts are stripped out, so we're gonna have to do this the really big pain in the ass way. So what I've been doing, just to show you guys, I'm kind of out, but what you want to do, heat it up and just kind of go in order, you know, and then you're gonna kind of melt the plastic behind. This one's already done as well. And then you're just going to continue until those nuts are stripped out, but let's keep going. God damn. Okay, so just so you guys know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 C's bolts. But we got to the goodies. Alright, next step, let's remove the primary. 21-inch socket, 21 millimeter. This should pull right off. Just gonna put this back in just to keep it from throwing out. Just like that. Nice. Front cup. Okay, so double sealed bearings, clean this up, clean this up. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna get ready to get this new one in with the springs. Springs are actually in good shape along with the retainers, so that's what we got. Let's do it. And we got this. Nice and smooth, locked out, cleaned up. Seems to be good to go. Light on that. Just get this going like this. Okay. Set on that. start it up and see. Alright guys, so after diagnosing this a little further, I got it running correctly, but unfortunately we have a rear cylinder head gasket leak. So gonna order those gaskets, gonna replace that because of a few things. First off, this thing only had water in it. So got a little carried away, plus the GoPro died, but here's what we got. Yeah, that is not good, but got a little carried away. So basically what happened was head gasket on the rear cylinder, started disassembly, relatively simple. So far I have these two bolts out plus the actual head studs. So removing the timing chain tensioner definitely wasn't the easiest job. Was able to get it out without splitting the case. Or at least separating the transmission, and I'll show you guys how I'll put it in, just so you guys know how I did it. But now that everything's in, this is in time, this is in time. You want these marks right here to line up with the top of the head. And this kind of goes for Sea-Doo as well. This is, you know, I'm not a Canam tech. But now the big issue is we're loose now. But what we're going to want to do is we're going to take these for the cam gear out, and we want to hold the chain because we don't want it to fall into the PTO. Otherwise, we have to take this whole assembly off, and I really don't feel like doing that. So next thing, let's remove these Allens, and we'll pop that sprocket off and try to remove this. Just gonna break these loose. Take this gear out. That. Do this. That way it doesn't drop to the case. And now, head studs. Bang. Alright, so head gasket is going to be shot. Oh yeah, pretty. I'm gonna pop this off. We're gonna inspect our chain guides, which they're a little melted. Nice head gasket. Now, my biggest concern is going to be getting this chain tensioner out. This melt. Okay. So that melted a little, but honestly, the actual look of it isn't that bad. I'm going to remove this old gasket, and we'll be right back. Alright, clean cylinder head. Alright, so got my new gasket on. Surfaces are cleaned. Not in the worst shape ever. Intake manifold's a little melted too. But I think we should be okay. I hope. So, now that our gasket's on, let's throw this baby in. So, since I was here, Already placed the water jacket, so that's new. And if I idle high, then I know my intake manifold is melted. So gonna grab our chain, snake it through. Once again, you probably don't even need this wire. I'm just so used to it on the Sea-Doo boats that, you know, it just kind of helps. Okay. Just gonna do this temporarily. Make sure everything lines up. Anyway, our head is lined up, so we're good on that part. All of them are threaded by hand temporarily. Let's get in our, not going to do timing yet, just going to line up our intake manifold bolts. Probably after. Next, we have the long screws, which go right here. And there. Next step, torquing down to 20 Newton meters, crisscross pattern. All right, now 180 degrees. All right, so set it top dead center. Now what we're gonna do is take our timing gear. So what you want to do is basically just, you're gonna get it to just kind of jump teeth. A little tight, but doable. And it takes some time to play around with. Alright, rookie mistake. Make sure your cam guide or your timing chain guide is in, because this actually fell out when I put the gasket in. But anyway, top dead center. My marks are aligned. Once the chain tensioner goes in, it's going to pull it to get these lined up with the head. Matte top dead center on the crank. So, and you can also verify all your rockers should move. So anyway, hopefully good to go on this. I'm hoping that it's not the cylinder itself that is leaking, but I mean, just from the looks of it, it was also coming from the valve cover as well. But let's hope for the best. I'm gonna get the 3 bolts in for the crank, timing gear, timing cheer chain. Bleh. You get what I mean. So let's get this buttoned up and let's see how she goes. All right, so while I wait on parts, which have been, every time I fix one thing, it goes into another and to another. So did a leak down test on both cylinders. Leak down test passed and no issues. So now that the cylinder head's done, did a compression check, And now we are leaking. Yep, all the clutches are apart. We're leaking from the PTO, so did order a gasket. It is leaking right here in this crack, so hopefully remove the PTO cover and replace that gasket, and then, only then, will my leak down test pass on the cooling system. So with that being said, what we're going to do in the meantime is we are going to, yeah, big mess. We're going to drain the trans fluid and just get that nice and fresh. So BRP calls for 75 140. I'm going to go with Royal Purple Full Synthetic 75 W40 140, and we're going to get this thing flushed. So first things first, when you remove this side panel, your fill plug is right here, and right underneath it there's the drain plug. So we're going to drain this thing and fill it up. All right, so we got our drain pan down below. Just have a scrubby 15 mil socket. I don't know if this will fit in there. All right, guys, so we have our 13 mil socket. Crack that loose. Nice. Okay, so we're gonna let this drain and then we'll fill it back up. Okay, so let this drain for a little bit. Now here's your plug, so you want to just make sure that your crush washer is back on your plug. Don't lose that, and that comes with the oil change and diff fluid changes as well. I'm gonna pop this on and then I'll show you guys the fill up. All right, so drain plug's in. I just have this tube that I'm gonna just use this, and let's get this cut open and fill her up. Just like this. All right, so once you're overfilling like that, then you are good to go. Next up, rear diff. So if you look in there, I don't know if I could get it. That little plug that's sitting, there's a drain right under here, and your fill is somewhere on this side. We'll show you that after, but gonna pull this plug out. It is an Allen key, and then let this baby drain and then refill it. Okay, so going to the drain plug, it is a 5 milliliter, so just gonna work this out. This one's a little crusty. Surprisingly, this is actually clean. We'll let this drain, we'll fill back up. All right, we are overflowing, which means we're good to put our plug in. Same thing, guys, crush washer, don't forget. And we're done. All right, guys, so next we're gonna set timing. So if you take off the crank position sensor and you look in there, there's a little 2, right? So rear cylinder is cylinder number 2. Now, if we come around the other side, and we're gonna see our timing marks. So my 2 does have to shift back a little bit, so I'm gonna just move this crank. So we're gonna move this crank to get that two lined up pretty much dead center. So right now, I actually have my clutch off. So I'm just kind of gracefully using a pipe wrench. Just gonna do a little bit of shifting. So here's a tool that locks in TDC. So this sits right in the teeth of that magneto. So I'm gonna just pop this in, and now we're locked in. So now I know that I'm set to TDC on the crank for cylinder number 2. So now that I have that, we're gonna go back to our chain. Now we have our 2 marks, which actually are pretty set to the head. I'm just going to check, and it seems like we're still at TDC. So now let's put this timing chain tensioner in. All right guys, so plunger lubed up. I have my timing chain tensioner housing. So the back one, this should be fun to do. I don't really know if it's gonna go that smooth, but we're gonna try it. Oh yeah, it's tight. I'm gonna just work this in and I'll continue. Okay, so was able to get this in. I lubed up the plunger, and then what I did was I just kind of worked it, plus I put a pry bar with light pressure, just kind of tapped it, and now I got past this. So next thing we're gonna do is we are going to put in our bolts for this, and then on to the next step. Okay, so once your housing's screwed in, now you have your plunger, which you want to lube, or oil I should say. You're going to screw this in like this. Now we're going to grab our cap with the spring, and then that's going to sit right in your plunger, which isn't the easiest to get to in the back end. Okay, so after a lot of back and forth playing with the tensioner, I now have no play on the timing chain, so that's all set, ready to go. I am in time. Valve adjustment was done. I apologize, the GoPro died, but that pretty much sums it up. I already did a compression check, or a leak down check on the cylinder, so I know the valve cover is good. I only have 2% leakage. I still have my PTO cover gasket, which is going to be coming in. So we'll remove the PTO cover and replace that gasket. Hopefully that solves my coolant leak issue. Other than that, should be all set. So chain tensioner's done. I have a new back plate coming in, and then we'll get these clutches on. I do have upgraded bolts coming in as well, so we'll be replacing the studs to the heavy duty ones, and we'll get into. So next point of tackle, drain the oil. So I had a leak when I pressure tested the cooling system coming right through here, right out of the PTO cover. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the hose. Don't ask me why I'm using vice grips. I don't feel like getting pliers. Now, I'm going to remove all of these screws and we'll be right back. Okay, so now that I have all the screws removed, should be able to hopefully just walk this out. And would you look at that? So that gasket is not even there. So bad PTO cover gasket. We are going to be placing that, but while I'm in here, all of the gears look pretty decent. Nothing broken, so that should solve my coolant issue and not being able to pressurize. So we'll scrape this off and hopefully retest this baby, and hopefully good to go. All right guys, got the new PTO gasket, so we're gonna pop this baby on just like that. PTO. And we're gonna put these bolts in, and we'll be right back. Okay, moment of truth. So I was getting a lot of leakage out of there. So let's pump this up, see if we can get pressure. Still hear it, but I wasn't getting any pressure before, so now it's a matter of trying to find it. Alright guys, so got a little hung up, and there was a lot more wrong with this thing than honestly I anticipated. How this thing even ran is beyond me. So I jumped a little ahead, so fixed the coolant leak, which was from once I fixed the PTO gasket. Then it jumped into this head gasket, replaced that head gasket. Then it jumped into this head gasket, replaced that head gasket. Then the cylinder was actually completely warped on this, so jumping around to this side, new cylinder. And honestly, the bore has seen better days, so that is one of the other reasons why I replaced it. The rear cylinder looked nothing like this, but you can see the gunk and everything in there. So that's garbage. But what we did was new chain tensioners, new O-rings, new gasket for the cylinder, new head gasket. Did the timing or the valve clearance, that's done. But honestly guys, this thing is just a nightmare, and I could see why so many people hate these. So next thing we're gonna do is I am just waiting, because this was leaking a little bit, the intake manifold, so I was getting a little bit of a weird idle, fluctuating idle. Smoke tested it, found where it was leaking, put RTV silicone on. This is good to go. It now runs and starts and drives. Well, I don't know if it drives yet, but we'll see. So next thing is we are going to start this up once that dries and see if it actually runs. Alright guys, coolant draining. So first things first, we're going to remove our lower rad hose. Then what we're going to do is right at the bottom of your water pump, that bottom bolt is actually a drain. So we're going to drain that. We're going to drain our front rad hose, and then we are going to fill with coolant. disgusting. All right, so once you bled or disconnected your radiator hose and then pulled out this plug, next thing we want to unscrew this and that right there next to the filler necks. So we're going to do that. Once our screws are unscrewed from the caps or the necks, manual says fill this until you see coolant coming out. So I'm going to do that now. Let's do it. Alright guys, so GoPro died, but basically you want to fill this, top it off, and then what you want to do is you want to jack up the front of this about 2 feet in the air, let it sit for, I let it sit for about 10 minutes, put it down, fill this up again, then you want to jack up this side, let it sit for a couple minutes, drop it back down, then refill this up. That removes the coolant or the bubbles in the cooling system. So we're going to start this pretty much for the first time since it ran originally, and we're going to hope for the best here. Overall, does not sound bad. So manual says let this idle and let the cooling fan come on twice. Then you want to top off cooling again once it cools. We'll do that and we'll be back. Well, we are pretty much back together. Mine is wiring, but still waiting on a few pop rivets and a few other things, but pretty much cleaned up. This is the only thing that's going to annoy me, so I'm going to work on this a little bit more. Do have a few things that we're going to do. So this is completely shot, so going to wind up pretty much doing a passive system, so this is going to be worthless at that point, but going to wire all these speakers up, come down, and then actually do a little head unit here. I'm gonna get all the switches wired in, so that way we have front light bars and the rears, and get all this wiring completely fixed because it is a mess. But other than that, let's jump into it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna unscrew all these speakers. And we are going to clear out all the wiring in here. So I'll do that and we'll be back. Okay, so had the speakers on this side removed. I actually realized that on the back of this there's actually a fuse in it. So the fuse was blown. I wound up actually powering the old SSV Works audio receiver up, and it does work, but the problem is, so when I went to go plug in like a Bluetooth adapter to the aux port, it was only playing speakers on the left, not the right. I thought it was the cord, but then when I went to radio, everything worked perfectly. So that was going to be possibly a simple solution, but we're just going to put in the receiver. So anyway, if you have one of these things and it doesn't have power, if you pull this off, there is a 10 amp fuse there. So just something to keep in mind. So going to wind up wiring these again. I'm going to come right down the A pillar and shoot right into our soon to be new radio receiver. Sweet. All right, so now that this is out, let's put our new center dash panel in. Slowly but surely, we are getting there. Not perfect yet, but very close. So now we have Bluetooth.
What was I thinking?
So key takeaways from this build. It's not perfect. Going to be selling this project. It has been such a headache, and I'm just kind of over it at this point. But other than that, I mean, it didn't turn out terrible. It still has its issues, and it's not, yeah, it's kind of ugly. I'm not going to deal with the winch. The next owner can take care of that. But honestly, I suggest this probably does need a full rebuild. But here is the extra crap that I kind of pulled off of it. So we have panels, we have that came with it. I don't know why, but all of that garbage is exactly it. It's garbage. So other than that, guys, that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one. Next one will be this baby, which is finally done. And I've already taken it out for about 2 hours. So this thing is honestly just an animal. But more on that to come. Stay tuned.